What's up, guys? It is Sam here, and today I'm just going to jump in real quick on the British UK elections, and we're going to talk about that, the polling data versus Google and YouTube search volume, which is going to be really quick because they're both pointing in the same direction. But with everything said, if this is your first time here, what's good? My name is Sam, and for those of you who are returning, thank you so much, and it's good to freaking see you. Let's get into it. So, the election that just happened in the UK, and if I get something wrong, talking about the politics in the UK, you can let me know down below in the comments using hashtag stole, and we can talk about it in the comment section, because at the end of the videos we get into a Q&A. But this is the aggregation of polling for these candidates, or the parties, it looks like. So the Conservative Party, which is what Boris Johnson was part of, and then the Labour Party. And you can see that the Labour Party was leading in 2017. They started to lose ground. And you can see that if you just follow this trend line, it looks like they're just declining, right? If you just look at the red, you can see they start up around the 45 here, then they come down to the 40, then they come down even further, have a little bit of flattening out, and they just precipitously drop off as whatever happened around June of 2000, looks like maybe March, April, May, June, there was these other parties that got involved, and both of the other two main parties in the UK lost a lot of ground until they started to gain it back. Anyways, but you see that since June, the Conservatives, which would be the party that Johnson's part of, it was just had a substantial lead over the other guy. Who was it? Jeremy Corbyn. He had a big lead over Jeremy Corbyn. And that's backed up by the data. We see the first part of 2019, it looks like it was pretty close, but that Jeremy had a bigger lead for at least a couple months in 2019, like the first third, several months there he had a lead, and then he just dropped off. Something happened and he was not relatable and gathering any attention. And the same thing holds up for Google and YouTube. So this is the YouTube search volume, and we can see, right, it's pretty flat for both of them on YouTube. So this is the search volume on YouTube using Google Trends for both of these search terms, Boris Johnson and Jeremy Corbyn. Bine, whatever his name is, in the UK over the last 12 months. And we get to see that, just like the data showed on the opinion polls, right around June, we actually see it in advance here, right? This is like a leading indicator. So we see that this is Boris Johnson's starting to take the lead here, and he just never gave it up all the way until the election. The election just happened like a couple of days ago. But let's go over to the web search real quick, and we see the same exact thing happening on the web search. So you guys who know better about the UK and what's happening, let me know down below in the comment section. Use the hashtag stole so that I can find the comment. And if we look over here at the average search volume, we see that it's more than 2 to 1 for the searches here, which is just pretty freaking tremendous. I'm not sure what exactly happened, but I wanted to make a quick video on it because I was doing the research on it. This is the comment section of the YouTube analytics, where I can search for hashtag stole and find your comments so we can talk about it. So this is from Star Trek Theory. How do you factor in that Hillary actually, and this is in reference to actually backtesting this data in the US, where Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton in 2016, polls said one thing, but reality was different. So this comment is in reference to that. Thank you so much for the comment, Star Trek. How do you factor in that Hillary actually, don't ask me how, won the popular vote? Does that validate the Electoral College? Gore actually beat Bush? Does this factor in? Not criticizing, just trying to tighten up the model. You're onto something. Awesome thought there. So that actually got me into thinking where the Electoral College is like 400 and I think 435 seats or something. And that's originally in the Constitution supposed to be each representative is only supposed to represent about 30 up to 30,000 people or something like that. And that says that in the Constitution or whatever piece of uh, legislation document that the founding fathers or whatever it was put in place. And that has that hasn't changed since 1913. And what that means is that each one of those seats, as the population grows, becomes more and more valuable. So what does that mean? That becomes more and more valuable from a lobbyist standpoint. I think you guys know what's going on here. So having a strategy for that, but also a strategy for getting the message out to the population, right? Because not every single one is as far as I know, every single electoral vote or whatever it's called is based upon just if you won 51% and I won 49%, you win. They're not all done that way. So if you have a very densely populated area that has 3 or 4 people who are representing like 1.5 million people, first of all, that person's individual influence might be different, right? Like they can also, I think they also have the decision to potentially vote in whatever direction they want. They don't have to vote in terms of the popular vote, but you could have, say, on the coasts, right, where you have, say, 75% going one direction or the other, and 25% not. But that represents a lot of the population, right? Across the rest of the country, where maybe the representatives only represent 100,000 people on average per, like in terms of 435 seats divided by the population in each state. That gets you how much each representative is represented in that specific state. So in California, the most populated state in the country, there's 55 delegates, right? And if there's 55 million people, I think there's like 40 million, but say if there was 55 million, then each person represents 1 million people roughly. So if one goes one way, you can have these edges where the popular vote is way higher in those areas, but in the other parts of the country, even though the aggregate of the delegates goes in the other direction. So that's how you get that discrepancy between those two things. Can we change it? Can we do better on it? Yeah, like think about, so I think on average now each delegate represents across the country around 700,000 people. So think about from a lobbyist standpoint, you can influence, if you can influence that in one way or the other, because those spots are super important, right? There's only 435. Now, if you kept it with like what was in the founding documents for the country, and it stayed around 30,000, well, there would be a fuckload more seats, which would be more representative of what the country actually thinks, right? But then you have all the cumbersome issues associated with paying these people, like healthcare for these people, the administration of all that. So I don't know, like I do think more representation than 435 people is a good thing. Maybe instead of 30,000, maybe per person, which was in the founding documents, maybe it goes up to like 300,000, which is like a little bit less than half of what we have now, right? If you have one person representing 700,000 people, as the electoral college currently does, versus on average, versus say going to say 350, right? And we double that, it's going to be more representative of what the collective thinks. Now, from an administration standpoint, I think personally government should be smaller and more work to help facilitate things. But if that increases, because like once government goes bigger, generally it doesn't go smaller, which just means there's going to be more taxes in the future. I can spend my money better than the government can, period. Even if I'm trying to do something good, right? Like if the government's like, oh, hey, you need to do this, right? Like we're going to tax you this amount to spend on charitable fucking like welfare programs, right? So you tax me, say $10,000 for the year, and then that 50% gets lost in administration, and then the other 50% is distributed to whoever they think that is most appropriate to receive that money. I can take my $10,000 and have way bigger of a fucking impact than the government can. Just as like anybody can, right? So if there was a different structure of how something laid out, I think that could potentially be interesting. I do love the feedback structure, and I love the comments. I don't know how this could play out. I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. There was a law put in place in, I think, in 1929 that like stopped them from increasing the number of delegates per like um, so it was increasing every time there was a new census thing coming out, or every couple of years as the population grew. In 2000, in 1911 or 1913 or something, there was a law put in place where it didn't change from that point on, and that was over 100 years ago. Um, Maybe there's a better way to do things than 100 fucking years ago. Like we have the internet. I don't know. I'd like to know what your thoughts are down below in the comment section. Use hashtag Stolt, and we can talk about it.